Hi, I'm Talia, and today I want to talk about the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. There are multiple documentaries about this, but the most recent one has finished the first 6 episodes as of yesterday, I think it was, and I just finished watching them and I want to talk about it. If you know anything about me, you know I'm interested in true crime stories, but this one is especially fascinating and I've been following it for years, and so it's good to have some kind of update on what's been going on. At first glance, if I told you a woman was involved in her mother's murder, you would think, that is terrible, what more could come of this story? Well, this story is deeply fascinating because Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who organised her mum to be killed, was a victim of Munchausen by proxy. If you don't know what Munchausen by proxy is, it's a mental illness where someone who is looking after someone else, like a parent, caregiver, a doctor, whatever, is making the person sick just so they can look after them. From the moment she was born, Dee Dee was convinced that Gypsy Rose Blanchard had mental retardation or that she was slow. She's not, but Dee Dee, her mum, was convinced of this. Just from watching all the documentaries and reading all the articles about her, there is a plethora of illnesses that Gypsy Rose was told that she had by her mother. But I want to read off the list of medical issues, and obviously this isn't a complete list because there's so many, but just on my phone here, and from what I can remember, these are the ones that Gypsy Rose's mum told her she had. Yes, Gypsy Rose was told she has mental retardation or that she's slow, sleep apnea, she has seizures, so some type of seizure disorder. She had an eye muscle surgery as a child. She had a feeding tube inserted because she couldn't eat, even though that wasn't true. Ear tube surgery to prevent ear infections. She had her salivary glands removed, which I don't know how that happens or how that even works or what that would be medically necessary for. She was given endless medications, which ended up leading to having a pain medication addiction because she was just popping them all the time. She was told she had leukemia, so her mum shaved her head. She was also told she had muscular dystrophy, and I'm pretty sure to be diagnosed with that you have to have a muscle biopsy. So at some point her mum let a doctor remove muscle from her body for no medical reason. And because of all this, she's also in a wheelchair because she can't walk. Can you please be quiet? We're talking about some serious stuff here. If you haven't heard this story before, you're probably thinking, this is wild, how did this go on for so long? Because I believe Gypsy was in her late 20s when this all came out. Here's the thing. Dee Dee, her mother, was a master manipulator and was incredibly good at getting doctors to believe her. There were multiple organizations that were helping out Dee Dee and Gypsy for these medical issues. They had Habitat for Humanity build them a house because they lost theirs in Hurricane Katrina, and it was even built with like a wheelchair ramp. There were multiple organizations and communities that helped out Dee Dee and Gypsy through all this. There were multiple organizations that helped out Dee Dee and Gypsy through all of this because they lost their house in Hurricane Katrina, so Habitat for Humanity built them a new house, even with a wheelchair ramp, so Gypsy could get in the house. There were multiple organizations that were helping Dee Dee and Gypsy out. Like, for example, Habitat for Humanity that built them a new house because they lost theirs during Hurricane Katrina. So Dee Dee and Gypsy got a new house and it even had a wheelchair ramp attached to it. There was Ronald McDonald House that regularly helped them with their hospital stays, and Make-A-Wish that gave them, I think, multiple trips to Disneyland and backstage passes to Miranda Lambert concerts with meet and greet passes, I think. But here's the thing. Organizations that are meant to help sick people aren't going to question if the sick person is sick. Like, Gypsy Rose had a bald head, she had big glasses, toothy smile, was in a wheelchair. People are going to assume she's sick. Oh, that's another thing. She thought she was a child, but she was actually a teenager. Just a tidbit to add there. So we have these organizations and communities helping out this family with a sick child. They're not going to question if she's sick or not. She's clearly a kid in a wheelchair. Why wouldn't she be sick? Well, what about the doctors? Well, Dee Dee always said that she lost all the medical records for her kid, and so doctors just assumed she was telling the truth. What mother would pretend their kid was sick if they weren't sick? To the point that she would cover Gypsy's ears to make it sound like Gypsy was really upset with hearing about the medical issue she had, and so they would tread lightly around her. Even CPS was called, and CPS, again, thought this kid is sick and this mother is struggling, we're not going to question her. But it brings up a good point. If you don't know the story of Gabriel Fernandez, there was a boy who was repeatedly being abused at home, and his teacher called the police and CPS to get the issue resolved, and it never did, to the point Gabriel was beaten to death. So there were so many times that something could have been done to stop the abuse, and no one believed him. At one point, Dee Dee even got her own medical script, or pad, I think it's called, where you can write prescriptions, so she didn't even need to go to doctors anymore. My number one question throughout this case is, don't doctors reevaluate medical conditions? I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in Australia, if you are on government assistance, you have to consistently prove that you are still disabled or sick, even if it's an incurable disease. It just blows my mind, because there were so many situations where people said they did see Gypsy walk, so they knew she could walk, and that Dee Dee was just over dramatic and trying to look after her. But I don't know, I felt like maybe if more people banded together, that the situation wouldn't have ended like it is. Another question I am left with is, why was Gypsy put in jail? I mean, I kind of know the answer. They have to make an example of it. You can't organise to have your mum killed. But I feel like there should be another system in place. She's not mentally ill, so she can't go to a psych ward or anything like that. But I feel like jail isn't the right answer. She spent her whole life in a jail of her own, in her mum's jail, basically. So to put her in another one, I don't know if that was the answer, but I'm glad that she's out and she can live her life now. It's just a question of what would have happened if things were different. I think Gypsy would just be treated like she was sick for the rest of her life. I don't know if the goal with people with Munchausen by proxy is to, kill the person. I think it's just make them sick enough so they always have to be looked after. And that's disturbing. We actually have a co-host this time. Clever. What's that? Behind you, look. What's this?